Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. It actually feels really weird to say welcome back when I haven't filmed in like a month, and I took a little bit of time off because life was just getting so hectic, but then I got really sick, and so now I'm back filming. It's so good to be in this chair. I feel really great, but my voice I'm having trouble bringing it back, so I apologize in advance if my voice just is gone like halfway through, or it just breaks in the middle of my sentence. I've tried my best to stay really hydrated, but yeah, I don't know what's going on. I feel like everybody around me has been sick, and I usually don't get sick, and I have a very good immune system, but it got to me, and that made me really sad. During this time that I was sick, I guess, I was just thinking a lot about faith and what stops faith, or what stops faith from growing too. I feel like I've seen this discourse online that there's a lot more people coming to Christianity, so that number is increasing, but then I'm also seeing that there has been a decrease in the people who identify with a religion, and there's been an increase of just atheism or agnostic or just spirituality. So I just wanted to figure out what was going on. There's like an increase somewhere and then there's a decrease somewhere, and I don't know, that was so confusing to me. And then I really wanted to know, like, why do people step away from faith, or why do people not believe? And if you are in faith, what stops you from getting deeper into faith? And then I was thinking of myself. So before becoming a Christian, which was like a year and a half ago, being of the world, some of the reasons that I wrote down were, and I think they relate to a lot of people out there too, is that one, I didn't have roots in faith. So my family didn't follow religion. So both my parents didn't really push anything, didn't really teach anything. So I was thinking, well, that's probably one reason why I didn't believe, or I didn't have the concept of faith. Another one was just, I just simply didn't believe that there was a God. I didn't believe in this, what feels so magical and mystical. And then the other one was that the world just fed that Christianity is evil, Christianity is this, faith is this, religion causes evil, like causes a lot of pain in the world, it causes divide in the world. So that was another reason why I really didn't like religion in general, not even just Christianity. And then my last reason was I was my own God. I was number one in my life. I could take care of things that way. I was in control. I didn't have to worry and follow a set of rules. I could make my own rules. So I was thinking that those might be some of the reasons why other people are not in faith in general. And then I started pulling in some research too. So if you're new to this channel, we always do this. We always bring the world in first, just talking and contrasting like what is of the world and what is of the word. I found out that in the early 1990s, 90% of the US identified as Christians, which is wild to me. 90% is such a big number. By 2007, so just 17 years later, it dropped to 78%. And then 7 years later, it went to 71%. And then right now in 2023, 2024, obviously not 2025 because the data's not out yet, but it went down to 62%. So 90% to 62%. That's a really big jump. And then at the same time, the number of religiously unaffiliated people, so people who don't believe in anything, they're called nuns, which I NONES, not NUNs like a nun. But so people who identify as nuns, so no religion, they went from 16% in 2007 to 29% today. So almost double in size. And then I really wanted to know why such a big jump from 90% to 67%. And then I found this article that said 67% of people who leave religion in general say they do it just because they gradually stop believing. So they just started having doubts, and their faith started to fade away. And the gradual part was the part that I was like, there has to be something that's impacting that gradualness to eventually leave faith. There has to be like something slowly chipping away at somebody's faith. And then that's where I was like, okay, it has to be culture, and it has to be like personal beliefs. And I'm sorry if this video is going to feel like it's a lot of articles and research that I'm talking about, and I'm reading off of my phone because of my notes, but I don't want this to be my opinions. I don't want this to be my reasonings and my conclusions, even though I do agree with it and I do have my opinions on it. I want it to be fact-based and show you guys what the articles say and what the research says. One of the reasons why people walk away from church is that they started having conflicts with church teachings. So how church teachings interfere with worldly personal beliefs, politics, and identities. And then that's where I was like, okay, that's where the big jump happened, because you have church teachings and then you have the world coming in, and now it contradicts that. So it puts all of those other things above the church teachings, and now you are your own back to my reasons of why I wasn't a Christian. You are your own God. The world and its views about Christianity and how Christianity is hateful, and it causes division, and it hates a lot of groups of people. That comes in, so then people just start to distance themselves. Religion has become very political, right? Like, you see it all over the news. Politicians will abuse religion. Politicians always fall short. Politicians are exactly like the judges and like the kings in the Old Testament. They're elected and they all fall short, but they will bring religion and they will use God to glorify themselves. And I do believe that that's what's pushing a lot of our younger generation, Gen Z, who's very liberal minded. It's pushing them away from religion, because now you've made religion really scary. Now you made religion really evil. Now you made a lot of division. There's things that you can't do in religion, but they push it in a very, very, like, the world will manipulate the word of God. And then another thing on top of that is that there's a cultural shift too. We live in a culture where these little devices control our life, and they fit in our pockets, and we don't need to interact with anybody. We have online community, and by community I mean we probably just have our friends on Instagram and TikTok, and we get to be updated about their life that way, and we don't need to meet them in person. So community, it's just online, very diluted and fake, and it's like a hologram. And then in terms of spirituality, well, you can build it yourself. You can make it yourself. You can get crystals, you can get cards, you can get these readings. You can make your own spiritual journey. You can do your mantras, you can do your manifestation journals that people did during COVID, and we're making up our own religion. And to that, I found this study that said that 33% of Americans now say that they're spiritual and not religious. And spirituality is just very confusing to me. I don't understand it truly. And I know that people can come up to me and say, well, yeah, I just believe in something, but I don't, I don't know. I don't tie it to anything, and that's it. But the thing with spirituality is that you get to define that on your own. So I just get really confused, is that if we're all on a spiritual journey and we're all defining it on our own, what are we connected to? Like, where is this? What source are we? If I have a different source than you, if I have a different definition of good and bad than you, of evil and good than you, like, it doesn't really make sense to me. Something else that I was thinking of is, in the 1990s, mental health was much better. We can all agree on that. And then I was thinking, there's been a decline in religion, but then there's also been an increase in mental health disorders. I'm not saying that they are causational and they, affect one another, but there has to be some sort of relationship between the two. It might not be the actual cause, but it might have side effects and it might have consequences to it. Again, I apologize that I'm looking and I'm saying all of these studies, but I do think that they're very important, because I want to remove myself from it, and I want to show the facts of what has happened when we take faith and when we stop having faith. So I'm going to talk about a few research studies, and these research studies are in specific to how a decrease in faith and a decrease in religious affiliations, and what it has done to mental health and our psychological well-being. So first one is from Harvard School of Public Health. And this was a study done in 2018. It says people who attended religious services at least once a week are 33% less likely to die by suicide. That's number one. There was this, I don't know how to say this person's name, Keong Psychiatry, done in 2012. It says this was a massive review of 3,000 studies, and it found that more than 80% showed a positive link between religious involvement and lower depression, less anxiety, and better overall mental health. And then there's this other article from the Journal of Affective Disorders done in a research done in 2014. It says religious belief was linked to faster recovery from major depression, particularly when people use positive religious coping like prayer, hope, and community support. Now, there's three more that I wanted to talk about again. So first one, we're talking about lower rates of anxiety, depression. Second one is stronger resilience in times of crisis. Third one that I wanted to talk about is greater life satisfaction. So highly religious people are more likely to describe themselves as happy. This was a study done in 2019 by Pew Research Center. They also reported stronger family ties, more volunteering, and a greater sense of purpose. This greater sense of purpose, I bolded that one because I do think that our current generation, and even a little bit of older generation, that's what people struggle with a lot. So they move away from religion because they're trying to find their purpose in the world, and that becomes like the main mission, and just finding out who you are and getting lost in that journey. The fact that being in faith gives you a stronger sense of purpose, and I'm a true testament to that too. Like, that's part of my testimony. I just think it's really beautiful. And then healthier lifestyle choices. So this was a study done in 2020, the peak of COVID, by the Mayo Clinic. So religious individuals are less likely to smoke, abuse drugs, or engage in risky behaviors, largely due to moral convictions and community support. This is majority in the US that I'm speaking of, but even that in itself, if you go to other countries, they're way more religious and way more into their faith and like families and their communities. And you see how mental health is much, much less in those. Mental health disorders are much less in those countries compared to the US, where we have, it just feels like mental health is like the biggest thing. It's the biggest burden. It's the heaviest thing weighing on this country. And then you see that faith is nowhere near, and it's absent. There can only be a cause between the two. Like, they have to be relational, at least in my head. I think faith is really, really important. And that's why I'm going to move into the word now and talking about what stops faith from growing too, because I think as Christians, you get into faith and you are in faith and you're believing, but then what stops people from getting deeper in faith and having a fire in faith? And then I was just thinking about, like last Sunday at church, I saw a few people come in late for worship, and I have been late too. Boston traffic can be crazy sometimes, but those same people then left really early, like really quickly after communion. And then you see people do that week by week. You see people come in late, leave early, and then they're just there for the sermon. And it feels like church is just a to-do list. Church can't just be a sermon after a sermon after a sermon. It has to be more than that. And that's where I think Christianity gets its bad reputation, because now we have Christians who listen to a sermon, go home and do their own thing. They're not in community. They're not reading the Bible with the church. It's very dangerous, actually, to define Christianity and God in our own terms. And I do think that that's what gives Christianity its bad reputation. And so many people have lost respect for Christianity. You see Jesus being mocked all over Broadway, and it's disgusting. Christians also have left room for that. We have to bring the depth and the significance of the definition to Christianity back. We have to claim that respect back, so other people can also see, and they can also then be on fire. Actually, what was the statistic earlier? It was like 67% of people leave religion because they gradually stopped believing. They're fading. It's gradual. So when I think of fire, I think of like fire just doesn't, it's like really hot, really fiery, really bright, and then it just like stops being a fire. Fire gradually stops being a fire, and it just slowly dims, and eventually it's just not a fire anymore. If you just stop that like hunger, obviously it's going to die. You're going to have to feed your fire always, just like when you're camping. You're going to have to feed it with wood to keep the fire alive. And how do you feed it? You have to feed it by being in the Word. You have to feed it by being in community, in prayer. You have to feed it by challenging yourself every single day, picking up your cross, denying yourself. Like, that's how you feed your fire, so it doesn't gradually die. And then you just become the other statistic of you're just the other 67% that gradually fade in their faith, and they just stop believing. The world will come in and slowly dim your fire, right? But if you're feeding it the Word and you're feeding it good things, your fire is not going to die out. And then that's how you get to set other people on fire. Like I said, fire makes fire bigger. Like, other fires together make a bigger fire. So you go next to somebody else, you're going to catch that other person on fire. You're going to plant a seed. And that's why you can't be lukewarm, because being lukewarm puts you at risk for your fire to be died out. And then that's where the world can come in and just fully suffocate, take all the oxygen out of that fire, and your fire is now dead. And obviously people can revive a fire, and that's what I want. But I don't want other Christians, I don't want their fires to stop. I want there to be wildfires everywhere of people's faith just increasing, that it catches other people and it brings them into the kingdom, and it's making disciples. It says actually in Revelation, what is it? It's Revelation something. I found it. It's in Revelation 3:15. It says, "I know your works. You're neither cold nor hot. Would that you were either cold or hot, so that because you're lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth." That felt like me saying fire for like, I don't know how long I said it. But I don't want that to happen to anyone. I don't want lukewarm. I want everyone to be on fire. And sometimes what I find is that when I'm so passionate about God, I feel weird. I feel so weird, and I shouldn't feel that way. I should feel okay because everybody else is just as much on fire. I'm not condemning. I don't want us to come off that way, but it is true. Sometimes I interact with people and I'm very strict in what I do and what I don't want to do anymore. Like, for example, yoga. I completely said no to yoga, and that felt so weird to say out loud to another Christian who does yoga, being so obedient, being so disciplined, being like so in the word, so you know how to practice and how to live out your faith, will not make you weird in front of other people who are doing the same. We shouldn't want to stand out in front of each other. We're all supposed to be strangers together. I shouldn't feel like a crazier stranger than somebody else, right? We have to all be strangers together to the same intensity. My 3 action steps were returning to the word, do not be lukewarm. That's what Revelation's scary. Did you guys catch that one? That one's scary. My next one is repent of comfort. So yeah, this Revelation verse is calling out the hot and cold. So this is, he's saying you're neither hot nor cold. So this is the people who are lukewarm, who are very comfortable. Lukewarm water is the best kind of water, right? Like you're like, this is so nice, really nicely to swim. If you're in really hot water, like a hot spring, it can be a little bit painful. If you're really cold water, you're not comfortable at all. It's freezing. That's who he's calling out. He wants you to be uncomfortable. He wants you to be out there, be bold. So, and it does say in Luke, right? It says, you must die to your flesh daily and pick up your cross. So that's repenting, like turning away from your old self and feeling comfortable and blending in with everybody and being in the word and just standing out. And then my last one is live like it's real. There's one identity and you have to stick to that, and then you have to show that. And yes, our world is getting away from God, and some might be rejecting God, but I don't think all of it is like people rejecting God. I think it's people just don't have examples, good, true examples of what Jesus is like, of who Jesus is. And if we're his ambassadors here on earth, then we have to fully live that out. And it says in James, faith without works is dead. Your faith, you have to show the works of your faith, and that work can be how you set other people on fire. So I just encourage anyone, if there's something in your life right now that you're like, well, I want to be on fire, something's off, I don't know what it is, pray about it and ask God, like, hey God, search me and search my heart, reveal and bring to the surface what could be the reason, and help me submit it, help me deny it, and lead me to follow you. Create this fire in me. I don't want to be lukewarm anymore. Just pray that. And if you're a non-believer and you're very spiritual, I just encourage you to ask yourself, like, hey, how did I get here? Why do I believe what I believe? And what stops you from getting even deeper in the path that you are on? Another question that I have for you is also, maybe write a list down. What are the things that are stopping me from believing in Jesus? Like, what are the things that are stopping me from not becoming a Christian? Write that down, and I just encourage you to reach out to another Christian. Go to church and maybe ask a pastor and somebody who's really educated in it, and see what they have to say about it, and say, hey, this is the reasons why I'm not believing in Jesus. Is this true? Is he God? That's my word of encouragement towards the end of the video, as my nose is like getting clogged up. I hope that you guys all enjoyed this video, and I hope that there was a word of encouragement in there for you somewhere. Thank you for watching. Definitely comment down below. Maybe comment a testimony if you were once lukewarm and are on fire, if you were not a believer but now are a believer, or tips and tricks that you do to stay on fire for God. I would just love that discourse to be in the comments. Thank you all for listening. Stay awake, and I will see you next time.